of stand politically, and what kind of led you to the events that transpired?
Well, so I do lean on the right side, conservative, but lately I've been kind of more moving towards moderate, I guess I should say. The reason why is because, both political parties, they definitely have their, what do you call it? Their,
Downfalls.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And how they, like paint each other or whatever, air each other's dirty laundry. And it's just one of those things where, like, no matter what, it really seems like just how it always been. Like, you do your vote or whatever, but nothing really changes.
Right.
Shit happens for a reason, I believe,
Yeah.
in terms of like what higher forces projecting that. But yeah, and then I guess what led to that event was my cousin was like, hey, there's a Trump rally in D.C. I was like, oh really? He goes, yeah, you want to go? I was like, yeah, shit. I mean, I've never been to D.C. before. Let's do it.
That first time in D.C.?
That was my first
That's
time in
legendary.
D.C. Yeah, right.
That's legendary.
No
Let's
field
go.
trip. He went straight to
Holy shit, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, so we left here at about 4 in the morning, took the drive there, and stayed overnight. And it was hard trying to find a place though, because a lot of the hotels around the area were like, we're not taking anybody in.
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, so like the day before, they didn't want anybody to stay in the hotels because they knew it was for.
I was telling them, like, you would look on the map of DC around them, and they weren't showing any routes into the city. That freaked me out.
So they knew that this was coming for days. Like, this has been planned, like,
Oh yeah.
established, and okay.
Yeah, this was I think he planned this out like 2 weeks before, something like that.
Yeah.
Or a week before, and yeah, so we took the drive there, and by the time we got there, the day prior, January 5th, we were walking around Arlington, kind of paying our respects,
Full
and
cemetery.
yeah, and that was really cool. Took some pictures, DC Monument, all that stuff. Everything was still closed because of COVID,
Yeah.
And but I really wanted to go see the Library of Congress because that would have been pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so everything was basically closed. We got to see some of the stuff. I got to saw the Lincoln Memorial and across the Potomac. That was pretty cool. And then, went to sleep later that night, woke up, and honestly, like, when we got there, it was, like, pretty light, amount of people. Like, there wasn't that many. And I would say, like, a couple hundred were there at the time, and we were all meeting at the Washington Monument. And they actually had the White House fenced off.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it was like you couldn't even like really look into it, or they were doing construction or something, and so you couldn't even really see that. But they had his stage set up in front of the wall, and also I also should mention this. The day before when we were walking around, I don't know if this really meant anything, but it was just something I thought was interesting. There were knives placed in the ground by the sidewalk. And
The actual knives.
yeah, like, but they were like stuck in the ground, like to a certain point where like a certain passerby wouldn't even really notice it.
Right.
I'm like, that's fucking kind of weird. And there were book bags like just scattered. I'm like, whatever, it was probably homeless or whatever. I kind of just wrote it off as that.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so more and more people started showing up on the day of the rally. And, we saw Secret Service on the roofs, nearby, typical stuff. And then...
nothing too crazy, though, like, just kind of like regular
security
type.
Oh, yeah. It was like business as normal, except, it was just a bunch of, people getting together. And a lot of them were just like, grandmas, grandpas,
like
moms and dads. And there were a lot of people from, like, China that were, like, handing out petitions. They were like, hey, we're, against the CCP, you should, sign this and whatever. We're like, all right, sure, whatever, why not?
Yeah.
And, yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. There's a lot of Vietnamese people, a lot of Asian people in general that were there.
Did you sign that petition that...
Yeah, I put my name and I think, that was about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't ask for anything else. So, but, yeah, so we, God, I'm trying to remember because it's like it's almost like it was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we were there. We were talking with some like people that are that were dressed up in like the Revolutionary War attire, which is kind of cool. So
I've never seen it.
yeah, it was a lot of people were so nice. I mean, they were like, like just like your typical like neighbors that you would meet or whatever, And so yeah, we got there, and we're talking with everyone, mingling, and Trump had his speech, and he said, we remember this, very very well. There, he said, make sure your voice is heard peacefully and patriotically and all that stuff. He never ever said like go in there and destroy shit.
Yeah.
And so another thing I started to notice too towards the end of his speech was the cell towers were starting to go down. So I was kind of having poor service. I thought it was because there's a lot of people recording or whatever. And then, but I was still able to make calls and texts. But by the time his speech ended, we started walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, and my cousins and I started going ahead, and we were probably about, I would say like the middle of the crowd going down. And there was this two older guys that were having trouble carrying this like big fucking American flag, Old Glory, and they needed help, so I started helping them out. My cousins were like, "Where are you at?" And I'm like, "I'm over here helping the flag or whatever." And so we got the flag, and we were helping them carry it down Pennsylvania Avenue, and so that was kind of funny and kind of cool. And then, so now we got to the actual Capitol building. So by the time we got there, everyone was about at the front of the lawn, at the bottom of the steps though. So no one had even gone in yet. So there were police there, and they held them there for a good while. We were just watching and whatever, and just talking to people. Were like, this is crazy, blah blah blah.
Now, how much time has passed since you guys first got there until you actually reached the Capitol? Like, how much time has passed since then?
Is that all on like the same block, kind of?
Yes, yeah. It was just a straight walk down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the speech was about, I'd say like an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, something like that, if that. But it was about a 10-minute walk, 15, from, there's also a lot of people from Pennsylvania Avenue down to the Capitol. And we walked down there, and, like I said, everyone was at the bottom of the steps. There were police at the top, but they were just patrolling and guarding, make sure nothing was happening. Now, there's actually videos of this. 1 minute, around 1 or 2 minutes after Trump's speech, there were already people at the gates of the Capitol in the front. And, I mean, there were like, because they actually had like those like, those mobile like metal gates or whatever, like they use for like, party events. Mm-hmm. And they had those out in front, like near the sidewalk. But a minute or two after the speech, there were people already there, like, knocking on the shit, whatever, which is kind of weird considering that it's like a 10-minute walk. I mean, unless you can run like the fastest fucking, half mile down that strip or whatever.
And you don't think they left the speech early? You think they kind of just were like there for a reason, like specifically?
I don't know about that, because I like I said, I can't. Yeah, I don't want to speculate too much. I mean, I had my views on certain things, but they could have left early and they could have just walked down. But
it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's highly unlikely.
Could be. Okay. Like I said, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But it was definitely interesting to see that they were already there, and basically knocking on the gates. But in that same video, when I was talking about, there's an actual like police officer that like opened up the gates and was like, let's go, go, go.
I remember seeing those.
Yeah, it was. The whole thing is just bizarre. The more you think about it, because with what's been going on lately, you see like how the government is basically trying to like, essentially terrorize and destroy the livelihoods of people who support him or whatever. Which I don't. like at all, and I wouldn't even want that on the other party.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't want that for people.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just
Either
one of
way.
those things. Yeah, like, like Soviet Union essentially. You
Yeah.
disagree with the government, get locked up in the gulag. But
So you were a Trump, but at this point you were a fan of Trump, correct? Yeah. So down there, was it all Trump supporter, like more than anything, right?
Oh yeah.
That was the whole kind of point.
Yeah,
Because he's
yeah.
having a speech. And,
Yeah, I mean, there was, a lot of people there. Just, I mean, I would say at least, at first I said it was like, around 1 million people. But I think realistically, like looking back at it retrospectively, I would say about good 500, 600,000.
Really?
Yeah, it was a lot of
That's a
fucking, I
lot.
mean, it was a sea of dudes,
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Mostly men.
No, there was a good amount of women too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, there were people from all over. I mean, there were people from California, obviously people from Texas,
Yeah.
the South, and everywhere, all over the states. So,
Yeah, I'm sure you're talking to everyone.
oh yeah, it was, yeah, people had some interesting stories on how they were getting there, and how the roadblocks they came into. Yeah, so we were there, and I told my cousins, I was like, hey, I'm gonna kind of go up a little further, because like when you kind of get into that like frenzy, the attitude kind of wears off on you, if you're really into that.
Right.
And I started kind of getting a little excited, and I was like, oh shit, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And I started going up on the grass, and I was just looking, and all of a sudden you just hear boom, 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 and they were firing the pepper bombs and the tear gas canisters into the crowd.
Wow.
The police from the top of the steps.
Kind of like unprovoked.
was there a reason?
So from what I saw, it was from I would say like half a football field away,
Yeah.
or maybe more. Yeah, actually about a football field away. So, yeah, it was they were firing there, but there were people definitely yelling and shit. But yeah, it it came out of nowhere. I think there might have been a few people that were like trying to like test the boundaries,
Yeah.
and they just fucking let loose, man. I mean, it was like holy shit. And then as soon as they did that, someone picked up one of the tear gas canisters and threw it back. I was like, oh fuck, dude, this is like turning some fucking crazy shit right here, Project X or whatever. And oh man, it was just after he threw that back, whoever that was, everyone at the bottom just went. I mean, it was like a front line.
Yeah.
Like everyone just rushed at once, and there was scaffolding in front of the Capitol at the time, and a lot of people were starting to climb that, and some dude draped the American flag over it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and
Damn.
dude, it was just such an experience to see, especially my first time in DC.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember all of this. Yeah, so that happened, and this is before I got my LASIK. So I had my contacts in, and I saw all these people starting to, as I was advancing, I started seeing, these cameras, and I think that they were independent, like cameramen or
YouTube people.
yeah, right, essentially. Some looked pretty serious equipment, some of the cameras, but there were people that were starting to climb the wall, and I was like, oh shit, I told my cousins, I'm like, I'm going to be right back or whatever, I got swept up in the frenzy, and I started to climb the wall, and it was cold as fuck out that day. Yeah, no snow, but I had to use my gloves and everything just to basically climb out, because the stairs were just crowded. I mean, nobody was moving,
Really?
and people were climbing up on railings. And
Are they still shooting down canisters? And stuff
no,
like that?
so at that time the cops were already retreated.
Really?
Yeah, so they were already inside the building. So yeah, I think basically they locked down the fort at that time, or tried to.
Did you see melees and shit, people fighting and stuff? Did you see that, or were you kind of further out?
No, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
I should mention though too, before I climbed the wall, there were some people that had backpacks similar to the ones that were left the day before, and they were in regular civilian attire, but they were putting on Trump attire. I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so I climbed up the wall, and it's kind of like a hard climb because it's like, you know, straight up, and you gotta put your fingers like in the brick or whatever, and then you gotta like reach over and like under and over this like one part to kind of get up, and this one guy helped me out.
Teamwork.
Yeah,
Let's
so
go.
they-
Let's go.
He said, "I got you, baby."
Yeah, and yeah, I still got video of, you know, most of it to show you guys, but yeah, it was yeah, he helped me up, and then I was like so like I like almost like in a daze because you're just like, holy shit, like I just climbed the fucking Capitol,
Yeah.
like the wall, at least, or, you know, whatever, and I'm like looking around, you know, people are, you know, waving the flags, and most of it was the, you know, "Don't tread on me" flags, and I always like in the media, you always see like there's so many people that are like, you know,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, look all the yeah, Confederate flags. I saw like maybe 10 to 12, if that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is out of like 500,000 people. You're saying there's only 10 or 12 flags. Wow.
They act like the "Don't Tread on Me" flag's like a Nazi flag too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Actually, if you didn't know, the FBI actually classified that as dangerous militia extremist.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well-
Anybody who carries that flag,
I
and
see them all the time.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
They're popular.
Yeah.
They're
So
way
what's the exact
popular.
label? It's dangerous militia or like malicious intent or something like that?
So
Those
they
ones?
they say that the people who fly those flags are, you know, basically militant extremists, and they use historical flags and iconography to, you know, propagate their, you know, whatever they say.
Damn.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah, it's funny too because like everyone in the fucking military has them.
Yeah.
You know,
that's-
especially when he's been in for like 4 years or whatever. You know, but yeah. So as soon as I climbed the wall, I was, you know, looking around and, you know, just like kind of just enjoying the view. Like I said, I saw like a sea of people, but then I saw there was this there were these two dudes dressed in old camo fatigues, like, you know, the old military pattern, the tricolors, and they were like busting in windows and trying to like get us to like do it too.
Yeah.
Like break shit open and, you know, break in. And I'm like, the fuck? And like all the people around us were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to
Yeah.
break into that shit?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we gotta, you know, do this and that. We gotta, you know, make them pay. And it's like, it's like, yeah, okay.
Tim Disney plug, put him in.
But yeah, it was yeah, that was a little weird. And then my mind started to wander when I started looking at the doors because the few minutes that I was up there were already people starting to go in. So by the time I started walking over there were already people walking in. But when I started approaching the door, I could feel the tear gas. And or I'm sorry, it wasn't tear gas, because tear gas and pepper spray have two different like feelings. I could feel the burning sensation of like almost like pepper, so it was like the pepper spray. And I got sprayed before in the Marines, and that shit fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, and if you get, you know, directly sprayed, especially with contacts in, it fuses to your eyes, the contacts.
Oh my god.
So I started feeling some burning sensations. I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But even if that wasn't there, I really don't think I would have gone in.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't there for that. I got a little excited, climbed the wall.
Yeah.
And then, so I say I was up there for about 5, 6, maybe 7 minutes. And then I got a little nervous, and I'm like, I don't think I should be here. And then I climbed down the side of the stone railing, and, you know, I went to my cousin's. And at that time, there was no cell service at all. And also, I should mention too, when we first got to that lawn after the speech, walking down Pennsylvania Avenue, there were news choppers already circling. But for the speech, there was nothing in the air.
I remember. I don't even think it was on TV. Like the speech, I
Yeah.
don't remember seeing it.
I don't
like maybe it
remember
was, but I thought they weren't even showing it, which is strange in its own thing.
So
but-
he was speaking for about, you said, an hour and a half.
Yeah, hour and a half, you know,
Okay.
a good amount.
And then as soon as the speech is over, people are already starting to go towards the Capitol.
Yeah,
And then the kind of the big flow of people start follow afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like kind of like, you know, one of those things where like, you know, people hung out for like a minute or two,
Yeah.
and then they started walking down, and, you know, that's about yeah, that's about what happened. And then, yeah, like I said, it was just like it started becoming a little bit chaotic, I should say, because like there were news choppers everywhere. People were starting to get like worried because there were only so many police that can come.
You're right.
Yeah.
You know, like the Capitol Police, and so my cousins and I, we were like, all right, we had our fill. We need to get out of here before they start really like arresting people.
Yeah.
Because we don't know who they're gonna take.
Yeah.
And so we wrapped up our flags, and we had the like on a PVC stick, whatever, wrapped it up so you couldn't really see it. We were still wearing red, white, and blue and stuff. And I remember my cousin, his wife called him. She's like crying because she's seen what's on TV, and he's like, no. He goes, we're fine. It's not like what it seems.
Did you know people had gone that far though, and were inside and like all that? Did you know that at the time when you were like outside, like that they were like totally inside, like the whole
No,
building? Okay.
so I didn't know that until after I climbed the wall.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
doors open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Screaming in.
Yeah, so yeah, it was so she called my cousin, and he was like, yeah, he goes, don't worry, he goes, we're fine or whatever, and we're on our way back. And as we were walking on our way back, there were a bunch of like police from Fairfax, Virginia, that were coming in. They were calling in everybody basically.
Yeah.
So we got there, we got to our car, and we're like, we're out of here. We got to fucking leave. So we fucking left, and we went home. And I remember when we arrived at the house, because we all slept at the same house together. We were almost like silent for a minute. We're like, that just really fucking happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a part of history. You guys were in the moment, which is like crazy.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, it started becoming more and more chaotic, because like, when people start getting nervous, and then that becomes like a mob attitude, it's
Yeah,
like,
it just takes
what the
off.
fuck, yeah.
Now, like backtracking a little bit, how tall were the fences that were in place before they got taken down?
So the tall ones were in front of the White House. So there were, yeah, so there were like, those like metal grate
Yeah.
barriers, the mobile gates, ones you can easily hop over, just basically move out of the way. So yeah, that was about it.
Really?
So.
And that was from like the riots, wasn't it? Because wasn't there all those riots in D.C. and like I remember they put up stuff and Trump walked to that church and this
Yeah.
and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Man.
But so you guys get home. You obviously see some footage and the news. I remember I was home that day and I was just watching it. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I remember
Like,
being home.
It was
I literally got a
crazy.
news alert that said rioters have stormed the Capitol building. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I honestly, I think I remember Trump having a speech that day, but I don't remember like ever watching it or anything like that. But all I see is rioters rush the Capitol building, and it's all over everywhere. And I was like,
they blew up the
holy
whole.
shit.
Yeah, and it got even crazier too, because that girl Ashley Babbitt was killed.
Yeah.
She was she got a little crazy too, because she started climbing through like the barriers, because the senators and other high-ranking officials, the House was there, and yeah, she's like trying to climb over like the broken glass of the door, and so what we initially heard was it was part of Mike Pence's security detail, because what he was supposed to do was he was supposed to stop the or like hold off the inauguration of Biden
The
or whatever.
certification.
Yeah, the certification of it. Yeah, and when he didn't do that, a lot of us were like, "What the fuck?" A lot of people were angry, and whatever, and yeah, and then we later learned that it was actually one of the Capitol police officers shot her, killed her, and I remember in the beginning, it was weird because a lot of us were like, "Oh, she didn't really die." Like like, there was like a whole thing of like, she wasn't really killed, and it was meant to show this or something like that. I don't really know, because I didn't go inside.
Did you hear gunshots or anything like that?
No.
Nothing like that. Yeah.
No one even brought a gun.
That's what I was gonna ask
Yeah.
you too. So like, I remember a lot of them were saying that these people were heavily armed and this and that, and I looked at the video and I don't even see people with pistols and
yeah.
shit.
I
You know
didn't,
what
I
I mean?
didn't see a single person.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, have a gun. I mean,
There could have been some that had in their waistband
Yeah,
or something.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but like I didn't see anyone that had that or a knife or whatever it was.
Seemed like a bunch of normal people. They were marching. I
yeah.
mean, there was nothing in their hands
Right.
and shit. Even book bags, like he's saying. I didn't see a lot of those. It's a strange thing.
Yeah.
You being there that day, I'm sure you just look back and you're like, man, this was strange. That was out of place. Like,
oh yeah.
it's odd.
Yeah, once the mind is really weird because the way it comprehends like not necessarily like stressful events, but like how it will comprehend like something that's like fast moving that's going on. You don't really think of it too much at first, but then later on as time goes on,
Yeah.
you start looking back and you're like, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
So that was the first thing that stood out to you was like the book bags and like the knives on the ground and stuff like that.
The knives in the ground for sure. The book bags I kind of thought were just like there from like homeless because DC there's, I mean if you literally walk out, I mean it's pretty fucking trashy.
Yeah.
Like even around the White House, isn't it rough?
It's a pretty rough neighborhood.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's
President
it's-
lives in the hood.
Yeah, basically.
essentially, and then God forbid you buy gas over there. There's actually a gas station over there, and they know that the government officials use the government credit card there,
Yeah.
so even during normal pricing, like when gas was like $2 a gallon.
Miss it.
Yeah, I missed that. Fuck. And they were charging like $6.50 a gallon.
Wow.
Really?
And oh yeah, it's probably up there now, probably $8 now. Just for a gallon. I mean, because they know that hey, they have to stop somewhere.
Right.
So they're not paying out of pocket. It's all government's money. So
Our money.
I was gonna,
Piece
Yeah.
of shit, man.
I was gonna ask, like, okay, so you're there that day. Now we fast forward. It's like 2 years later from that, or year and a half, whatever you want to call it. So let's say things go the opposite way that day. Like, it does succeed. Like, do you think we're better off, or are we better off having Biden right now? You know what I mean?
Oh no, we're not. This is.
That's the whole thing with me.
you can even look at it rationally. Like if you were someone out of this United States, didn't care about politics,
Yeah.
and then you wanted to look at you want to compare the Trump's presidency to now Biden's. I mean, you can even see. I mean, this dude is just. I mean, he's not there.
No.
I mean, he's talking to people that doesn't exist. And I mean, there was even that one video where he was talking about a congresswoman. He's like, where's so and so? I miss her or whatever.
Dead.
She's been dead for 2 months in a car
I
accident.
remember that.
And you're like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
We went from that to this, and that's what really kills me about that day, because everyone just like shits on that day and whoever's there, and it's like, well, really, these people really believed so heavily that they went there that day for a reason. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
it just kills me. It's like,
And it's just
how do you
crazy
not
that it's
see
so
it?
like heavily publicized and stuff like I remember it was just a couple days ago, like what the last day of the hearings or whatever, because they were gonna subpoena Trump or whatever, and Biden did that thing with the Saudi crown prince, how he's gonna halt the production of oil or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like it's just so coincidental how all that shit works out. So like you're telling like the people in the fatigues and like the book bags
Yeah.
and the knives
Yeah.
and shit. It's like, I mean, we're no stranger to false flags. Like we've done plenty of this shit.
Oh yeah, CIA. I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard of Operation Northwoods.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some really fucked up shit.
Yeah.
Planning to like do false flags on your own people.
So
and all
let me
that
ask you
type of
this: like
stuff.
retroactively, let's just say you have to speculate. You're gonna put all of your brain power. Let's say this is it. Do you think that shit was like an inside job? Like obviously you guys aren't a part of the inside, but let's just say that there's actors within. They're like, okay, we're gonna push it a little bit further, and kind of we're like, we know all these people are coming to this Trump
Guided
rally.
this way or that
Yeah,
way.
we're gonna
Yeah.
not necessarily tell you one way or the other, but we're gonna guide you into that direction. We're gonna kind of steer you and like, oh yeah, let's just start breaking shit. Let's just hop on over. Let's just
Yeah.
let's go the
overboard.
fuck in there.
There were definitely people that were that I believe that were there that were definitely under someone's payroll, and I forget his name, because I kind of just started getting away from this politics stuff, because I mean I had my views on things or whatever, but it's just one of those things where like I can't do anything about it.
Right.
No matter how much you and I vote or whatever, I think things are just going to keep happening for a certain reason. I think what happened is when Trump won, that surprised them because they didn't think that Trump was going to beat Hillary
Right.
back in 2016. And I think they were like, that was their wake up call. And they're like, all right, we can't let this happen again,
Yeah.
because
Right.
he was doing shit. You know, a lot of it was actually for us. Now, you can say whatever you want about the man's character. Definitely a flawed man.
Yeah.
You know, not perfect in any sense whatsoever. But in terms of like having more money in the pockets of the average American,
Yeah.
I would say definitely was.
In that ball.
We were going through good times, bro. 16 till COVID hit.
16 was good.
That was the best I've
Yeah, it
ever
was
had.
good.
You know.
Yeah.
The stocks were booming. I
Yeah.
could fill up my car for like
Gas.
$20.
Yeah, right.
Now it's like, man,
Everything's
just everything goes to
fucked.
the wayside.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just nuts. But people don't see it that way. They just say, well, you know, I get a couple good things. I get grandpa
Yeah,
in the
right.
office and stuff, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless, he sniffs kids and shit. Like, that's beside the point. Like, he does all this stuff. I just don't get it. And I think, like, I feel like for our generation, too, especially, they just are, like, not necessarily, like, single issue voters, but, like, they just vote more emotionally than, like, they really should.
And that's the problem, is it all comes down now to identity politics. And you know, if you are a Trump supporter, you're automatically racist, or if you're a Democrat, you're automatically a libtard, or
Yeah.
emotional, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's just the way things are. You know, and unfortunately, people don't want to have an honest conversation about certain topics because it's emotional to them, even if they don't understand it. You know,
Yeah.
especially with the Russia Ukraine thing.
That's what I was gonna just bring up too.
Oh my God, that it's one of those things where it's like, I understand why you would support that. Like, you know, like, okay, you know, you don't want, you know, a country getting invaded or whatever, but like, fuck, this shit happens all the fucking time around the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And like now you're just like paying attention to like geopolitics, and it's like, it's like, God, if you fly a Ukrainian flag, it just makes me think it's like,
Oh, well, there's a World Cup.
Yeah.
That's true though. Like, and I think that's why they partially got Trump out of there too, because he didn't want to.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have
Wasn't
been
it like
involved
just
in that.
2 years ago or a year and a half ago they were saying like Ukraine is like really corrupt and they're
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
all this
There's
crazy
all
oh yeah, Ukraine's been corrupt. I mean, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union in '91, you know, it broke apart. You know, Ukraine, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. They call them the buffer states, and you know, after they broke apart, I mean, they were pretty corrupt in the '90s, early
Yeah.
2000s, and then you know,
Now didn't Putin offer them like $15 billion or some absurd amount of money to stay with them or like remain close with them or something? That's what I thought I
I
remember
think that
reading
was a
something
few years
about it.
ago.
yeah, I don't know about that essentially, but I do know he still wants those countries as a buffer zone
Yeah.
because
No NATO.
yeah, it's it's one of those things where like he just wants to protect his country, and you can see that with how he runs his decisions.
Yeah.
Now, before I go on to anything else with that, he's definitely a fucking power hungry individual, and he's not a good person.
Yeah.
You know, the suspicious deaths of political opponents and stuff, definitely fucking weird. But you know, he's you can tell he definitely cares about his country a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's but yeah, anyway, he wants like a buffer zone in terms of how the NATO is, like how they are with far in the Eastern Europe, over in Hungary and Czech Republic and Poland and all that. He wants those buffer zones to protect the actual borders of Russia.
Yeah.
So, and what happened was the Ukrainian Civil War happened in 2013 or late 2013, early 2014. And what happened was the people actually wanted to stay with Russia. They wanted closer Russian ties. They did not want to go to NATO. And I think at the time, the Ukrainian president wanted to do that. He was going to have stronger ties with Russia.
Yeah.
And so, for some reason or another, I haven't gone too deep into it, but he switched his decision. And he was like, we're going to go with NATO. And the people were like, no, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it was bloodbath in the streets.
Yeah.
And it was like that for many years. And
Nobody cared.
yeah, no one even knew.
America didn't know or care.
Yeah, no one, I mean,
I followed it because I watched Vice a lot, and I was like, dude, this is crazy. They're sending in Russians and unmarked, like, uniform, this and that. You could tell they're Russians. And then
Yeah.
they're having the Capitol sieges and shit. It's really crazy.
That's what,
when
like,
you looked at it.
the
That's
point
what
that you
I
bring
watched
up with
too.
like
Yeah.
NATO and stuff. Not a lot of people will like like go below the surface. They just see Putin. It's like he's just a horrible dictator. He's like,
Oh yeah.
now I'm not saying he's definitely not killing people like 100%, but like people die every fucking day. Like if I'm gonna cry over that, I'm gonna cry over a lot of stuff, and I'm gonna keep on crying. But what you're saying is exactly true. Like he just wants that buffer zone. He doesn't want Ukraine a part of NATO because, like we seen with the Cuban Missile Crisis, like we don't want our backyard touched. Like why would you expect any different?
We're inching closer and closer.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's.
It's just one of those things where, like I said, it's people like you know, kind of like my dad actually, because him and I, we disagree on politics severely. You know, he thinks that, you know, Trump is like the worst thing that ever happened and this and that. I'm like, well, if he was a dictator trying to take over the world, he must have been the worst dictator I ever fucking saw.
Now, how does he feel about, like, since you were there that day and stuff like that, or does he not know?
I told him later on, like 6 months after.
How did that go?
He was like, he goes, really, you were there? And every now and then he'll like say something like, he goes, is that really all you did? I was like, yeah, that's what happened. You know what happened? And
Dad, I'm sorry, I was in Pelosi's office.
Yeah. And then
but yeah, right. I took a dump in her desk or whatever, whoever did that.
I would have pissed everywhere.
They took your laptops and shit.
And yeah, I
Actually, going back to that real quick, I would say like 10, 13 days after that happened, I had a visit from 3 FBI agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into that.
Okay. I ask you.
So they were like, so it's funny first. So I was recovering from LASIK, and my mom was on the phone with someone, and we heard the doorbell ring, and I'm on my phone or whatever, just like looking at YouTube, and my mom opens up the door, and there's like, you know, I only saw one person there. And he started saying something or whatever. My mom's like, "Oh no, sorry, we're not interested in whatever he's selling." And she closed the door, and I looked over, and I saw government plates in the car. I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Mom, those are federal agents." So I opened up the door. I'm like, "I'm sorry about that." She didn't know, and she's like, "Oh." She goes, "What are you guys here for?" And we're like, "Well, we're here to talk to your son. You know,
wow.
so." I was like, "All right, well." I'm like, "Yeah, we can go outside." So I didn't want them in the house, so.
Yeah.
But. They were actually nice. They weren't like dickheads about anything or tried to like lead me into saying anything. Yeah. I was trying to be really conscious about what I was saying. Mm-hmm. And there was this part of me that thought about lying, like, oh no, I didn't climb the wall or whatever. But I was like, you know what? Spill the truth. Yeah. I didn't do anything. I did climb the wall, yes. But you know, here's what else I saw. And they did ask those questions. They weren't like only interested in me. They're like, did you see anything else there that was like weird? You know, I told them about the book bags and the knives on the ground. And so apparently what happened was someone anonymously on Snapchat, because I was an idiot, and posted the fucking story, like the videos or everything on my fucking story, and someone reported me anonymously to the FBI. Wow. It was either someone on my friends list, because only friends can see my story, or they were watching.
Wow.
So
and then I found you.
Yeah, I have no fucking clue.
Makes you never want to post on Snapchat again.
Man.
Yeah. And they said all it was an inquiry. Yeah. And I told them I asked them, I'm like, hey, is this gonna affect me going, back to the military? Yeah. And they're like, no, this is just an inquiry. This won't even go on your personal record. Nice. So, never told the recruiters or anything.
Nothing after that either. They never talked to you again. Never contacted you.
So they called my cousins though, or one of my cousins on the phone. And because I went with a few people, but they only called the one cousin. Mm. So I was like, this is kind of weird. Yeah. So, and I think maybe because they were like tracing the phone calls maybe. And the reason why I say that is because even the banks, people who like pulled out money or used ATMs in DC that day or the day before, they released all those, bless you, the statements to the FBI. They're like, yeah, hey, here's all these fucking people that are possible terrorists.
To stay in close proximity to. Man, so it was full steam ahead. Everyone's on deck.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, here's what scares me the most is the people who were inside. I understand like the trespassing part. There's no reason they should still be in jail. They're still in jail.
Dude, that's
without
nuts.
Trial.
Yeah, no trial. Like Guantanamo Bay.
And the reason why I say it is because there's going to be a trial. Because when that happens, that's going to be on fucking national TV everywhere. Yeah. And they're gonna fucking paint them or paint the sidewalk with them.
Let me ask you something real quick. Do you remember? I think it was around that time or that day. They said they found a pipe bomb near the Democratic.
National
National
Convention.
office.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they did say that initially. They didn't find any bombs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. They said that we had weapons
interesting.
everywhere. Nobody had a weapon.
Yeah.
I didn't see anyone with a fucking AR
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing like that there.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, isn't DC like it's known like it's like a gun free zone or whatever, you know,
Yeah,
like they.
yeah.
I know.
Close.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I know some people probably were conscious of that, you know what I mean? Because they're like,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
going to the Capitol, there's going to be cops everywhere,
Right.
military, whatever. But I was going to say, what down there, what did, like, like afterwards, I was going to say, how did they know that people weren't allowed to fly home, they weren't allowed to get Ubers after that? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, they were at the hotels and they were already flagged. Like, they already were known. Like, they weren't allowed to fly home. They had their plane tickets canceled. Because I seen that on the news later that night.
I didn't see that at all.
You didn't
no.
see it? Yeah.
No.
Did you ever see that?
That's
Okay,
interesting.
so people were going back to their hotels. They had their Trump gear on. They had, American flags, so like he's saying. And then some of them made it to the airport, and they weren't even allowed to get on, like, the plane. So it's like, how did they know that quick
Right.
that those people were there or, like, involved? You know what I mean? I just think it's crazy. I think some of them might get pardoned. I know it sounds crazy, but I think that might be the only way to have like a peaceful path to it, in a sense.
I think it kind of like set the precedent for like anything else to happen. It's like you
Yeah.
have to like look at history like a little bit. Like I've said this like before too. I don't think anyone should have died. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I think every single person in there, and I'm talking about like all the senators and all the House reps, I think all of them deserve to get their fucking ass beat. They should have got dragged out there and got their fucking ass beat. For all the shit that they do, I'm not saying anyone should die, but they deserve their fucking ass beat, 100%. I don't think
Yeah.
the windows should have got broken or any of that stuff.
Yeah,
But, like,
right.
you need to have some accountability because at the end of the day, like, I'm your boss. Like, if you're my House rep, like, that's how it,
You work for
ideally,
us.
ideally, that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just gone,
It's-
like, so far to the wayside, it's like, man, I would give anything just to fuck one of those dudes up. Like, it's just so fucked up, like, what they do. And, like, you can trade stock. You can do all this kind of shit, but, like, as soon as
Correct.
one tries to, like, even come near you, anything like that, you fucking hide behind
Change the
it.
system
Like,
or,
you're a fucking
fight the
coward.
system.
Yeah, exactly.
And I get that. I'm not the one that really call for violence. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You have those feelings. I get it.
No, okay, but to push back on it a little bit, like, you're in the military, so, like, at any point in time, like, it could be a thing, like, especially, like, where we're at now, geopolitically. Like, do you think, now, there is, like, a pacifist point of view, like, where you can have change without violence, but, like, we're still human, we're still, like, basically animals, right? We're 2 steps away from, like, chimpanzees and shit.
Essentially.
So, do you think, like, violence at some point in time, it has to happen, like, it's inevitable? We're gonna have, so, like, to fix the system that we're in now, like, I think it's inevitable. At some point in time, we're going to have to do something. I'm not saying it's going to be me personally or people like that are here now, but at some point, violence is going to have to be some part of the solution.
I started thinking about this because, people always joke, the Boogaloo 2, is coming or whatever, or Civil War 2.
Did you see Proud Boys down there?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were actually pretty cool. They we talked with them for a little bit. They didn't seem like they were aggressive or anything.
Yeah. That dude, I know he went down bad.
Yeah, that was
out of here.
yeah, and I think they're all veterans too. If I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
yeah. Vets and cops, I think.
Yeah,
Yep.
and but yeah. Anyway, I thought about this. I God forbid there's a civil war, because in the end, if you think about it realistically, if there's a civil war, shit is gonna hit the
It's
fucking
not gonna be
fan.
north south again. It's gonna be everywhere.
It's essentially it's gonna be rich versus poor,
Yeah.
but not in the traditional sense of like Republican rich or whatever, or Democrat rich. It's just anyone who follows that fucking system, the one that's being propagated right now.
Yeah.
If you disagree with us, you're fucking wrong, and you should be imprisoned and go to a re-education camp like they have in fucking Australia.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
I just seen that Turkey, like, they have the disinformation. If you, like, spread disinformation online or, like, you go to jail for, like, 10 years. Like,
I
it's
see
hefty.
Yeah.
Hefty.
Yeah, that I think Canada and Britain have something like that, but Canada and Britain are beyond
Canada,
fucked.
those
Truck-
truck.
Yo, when I seen the truckers, I knew that dude's
I
a
got
cuck.
banned
He
off
likes
Twitter
watching
off
his bitch
that.
get fucked. He's a
Yeah.
piece of shit. Justin?
Yeah.
Justin? No. He's like Grandpa Joe to me.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Oh my.
Justin
he's
Trudeau.
Real fucking.
He's weird.
Cowardly piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they lead nations. That's the craziest part. No other time in history has that happened. Weak
It's-
people.
He is I would say world class cuck. I mean, he's like
That's
in this fucking he's in this for the fucking long run,
Yeah.
you know.
100%.
But
100%.
but yeah, anyway, I don't know if violence needs to happen. I will say I don't want a civil war to happen because, like I said, if you really think about it, if a civil war were to happen, obviously the military is going to get involved because they'd have to bypass the posse comitatus law, which is the where the military cannot interfere in civilian law enforcement or subjugate anybody or basically have the law.
Yeah.
Like we're off post.
Yeah.
The military. We do our things here, the training, and then off the shores of the United States, we go do our thing. And
America.
yeah, I don't know, man, because it's brother versus sister at that fucking point, and I don't want that to happen. I'm preparing for it because I'd rather be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in case, have it, not need it, than need it and not have it.
Like, you prepare for the worst but hope for the best. That's always been, like, my mentality.
Yeah, I've been hoping for a few.
Couple years.
It's been
now.
getting bad. It's been getting bad. Like, 2016, we graduate, everything's good, life's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Kinda high.
And then it's just fucking going down.
It's
just going
crazy
so
how
bad.
fast it all happened too.
It's going so bad.
Especially like the BLM riots and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one wants to talk
Stay
about
inside. Stay inside.
Yeah.
But if you guys are rioting, that's fine. Everyone could be close.
that. They
together.
literally were
That's the
burning down
exception.
shit. Like, they put pallets of bricks out,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
for convenience.
Yeah, Molotovs and
Yeah.
stuff like that. $2 billion in worth of damages, property insurance,
None of them are
a
locked
dozen
up.
deaths. But that's when they stopped counting in 2020.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's true.
So let me ask you real quick. Sorry, not to cut you off, but so election-wise, Trump versus Biden. Did you think there was fishy, maybe irregularities, or did you think Trump won? How did you feel about that at that time?
Well, this is on YouTube, but I definitely think 81 million votes is definitely a bit of a stretch for an old man who hardly ever campaigned and has done literally nothing in his 35 plus years of
Yeah.
political experience. Hasn't worked an honest day in his fucking life.
Yep.
A little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what always stood out to me. And
I
stayed
went
up.
to bed. I went to
Yeah,
bed thinking, literally,
that's
I
what
was
I'm
like,
saying. Went to bed.
all
and
right,
it was like
we're
it's
back.
over.
Yeah.
We're running it back. And then I wake up, I'm like,
You looked at that.
Yeah,
Are
and
you fucking serious?
yeah, and the fact that they stopped counting at 2 a.m, I'm like, that's never happened before. It's kind of weird.
but people will jump on you. Oh, you're an election denier, all this kind of stuff. Listen, I just have common sense. You're telling me this guy got 81 million votes? I just don't believe it. There doesn't even have to be a hard 100% true fact that shit got rigged. I don't believe it.
Oh yeah.
Because every person I talk to, I don't like Trump, but
It's
I'm
instinct.
definitely not voting for Biden. I'm definitely not. Now, all things considered, we live in like a mostly Republican state. But man, that is such a fucking stretch. I just don't believe it. I really don't.
And a lot of people don't. And I think too is what it is a lot of people are just afraid because they have families and they don't want to be the one to fire the first bullet.
Yeah.
And it's scary considering what you have to go up against.
Yeah.
Because the CIA, first of all, they've kind of been doing their thing. Whether they've been running the show for a while, but the FBI have definitely become a politicized tool.
Yeah.
In what has been happening recently, they're definitely not a friend of the people.
Yeah.
I should say.
They're like the Hoover days now,
Yeah.
They're
Right.
really going after people.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's
just
a
political
witch
shit.
hunt out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like McCarthyism all over.
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
But instead of that, it's just like, we were Republican, well, we're just going to get on your ass.
Yeah, right. And I don't even think anyone who calls themselves a Republican is all good either. Or they're on my side, especially the GOP. No.
Yeah, this is what I was like about to say too. Since we're talking about like elections, I thought everything was going to be fine. Like a real red wave was going to come. Like everything's going to go
I
sweet.
think it has.
Yeah, but I think the abortion thing really throws a wrench in it. I think that's like one thing that like that will completely turn aside.
Oh yeah.
I think so.
Well, think about it like this: if you're trying to take over a country from within, now I don't know if this is like, maybe part of it is China's doing, or maybe this is just the elites just running the show, whether it's global elites or our elites or whatever you want to call it. If you want to take over a country, what you have to do, part of or most of the time, is go after the youth. If you go after the youth, they're going to grow up thinking this is the right way. Right. You go after the universities, right? Because young people's minds are so malleable in terms of like what. Them. Yeah, exactly right. Or in this case, what's going to happen? Groom them.
Yeah.
You think if you're a boy and you think you're a girl, hey, cool, dude, you go do your own thing. Don't force me to call you that though.
You win.
Or try and throw me out.
You win prom queen now or prom king now.
Yeah.
I think your guys is old school.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You seen that?
Mm-mm.
Oh man.
What
Dude.
is this?
We'll talk about it now. 'Cause I don't want to name drop him, but it's nuts. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But that's the thing though. It's like when you get to a certain point.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Fine.
When we get to like a certain point, I think that it is like a right versus left thing. But I think like going forward, it's definitely going to be like the elitist people versus like the everyday common person. Like even if like you're a millionaire, let's say, it's like the uber wealthy.
Uber
wealthy, like the ones you.
The Rothschilds.
Yeah, like that.
The Rothschilds and the Rockefellers especially.
Yeah.
And actually, if you want to know something kind of weird, I think it was the Rothschilds. They actually, and a lot of people don't know this, they patented the COVID vaccine, SARS-2 COVID, back in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2015, something like that.
Yeah.
5-7 years before.
Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I think it was 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that, and it's like, that's kind of weird. But, yeah, that's...
They also patented the test kits, too, as well.
For the scandemic?
All those,
That old fucking thing.
Nose swabs.
Yeah, the take-home tests. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, anything to, basically, get the money or whatever. That's how a lot of people got rich after World War I and II. You own the bullets and the bandages, but you don't have to go fight in the war.
Yeah.
And if you have money, you can, pay them off. Hell, my son is, hurt. He doesn't have to go fight in the war.
It's always the industry and the bankers.
Oh, yeah.
Doing the wars.
Especially when they started combining shit.
Mm-hmm.
When, industry, met
Right.
warfare. That was... That
Took
the
off.
20th century, man, if you really look at it and you look how shit fucking unfolded and how it unfolded to what it is now,
Oh, yeah.
you're like, holy shit, man.
Man,
Like, no one really foresaw any of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anyone could really see,
But
because we weren't this divided since the 60s, the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
And even then, that was still somewhat controlled.
Yeah.
That kind of went away.
Yeah, now I feel like it's just all out warfare. Not like in the physical sense, but you go online or something and you even...
Every realm.
Like even if...
It's a division.
Like when we post this, people are going to be like, oh, you guys are just fucking crazy right-wing nuts. It's like, no, you actually have to like listen to what you're saying. Like you're getting fucked by these people and you're going to stick up for them?
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck about you.
And
None of them
And
do.
that's how I
That's
feel
how
about basically every politician.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter who
I
it
just
is.
try to vote for the lesser of two evils. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, well, I vote on now who I like. I look at what they're standing for, what they want, their ideals, and I try and go off of that. But it's
tough.
Yeah, I don't go on identity politics anymore. I used to,
Yeah.
but it's like only Trump, blah blah blah, or DeSantis or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude's. I like him a lot.
DeSantis.
Yeah, that
we
dude.
like
Yeah,
him.
he's a fucking savage.
Yeah, he's real.
It's real. So you're there, that day. Since then, you've kind of like maybe changed views or kind of see things differently. Does that have a big part in that?
Honestly, it's not that I really feel different, except in the sense of like, politicians are gonna be politicians.
Yeah.
Right.
I found out that, because I only started doing this like a month ago, where I stopped. I cut out all the like news, anything like, even if it was like shit that like I used to watch, whatever. I kind of still watch Steven Crowder a little bit, but
Yeah, I watch them sometimes.
yeah, but like for the most part, I cut out all that stuff, and I just found out I'm just a lot happier with doing my own thing. I'm trying to save up money so I can get my own house one day. I'm changing careers.
Have some positive things, right?
Yeah, right.
Instead of doom and gloom.
Yeah, because if you really like, stick to this, like 24/7, like a lot of people do,
Yeah.
even if you're right or left,
You'll go nuts.
you're gonna go fucking insane,
Yeah.
and you're just gonna hate everybody.
I did that during COVID. I was just like locked into like a vortex that way, and then I just started like just changing. You're
Yeah.
just looking at everything like in extreme right, and it's like I got.
Oh yeah, and another crazy thing is when COVID happened, fucking suicide rates went
Oh yeah.
fucking
Yeah,
skyrocketed.
dude.
Hell yeah.
It's fucking
This
Sad.
pandemic.
Abuse and suicide, like domestic
Oh, yeah.
I
abuse.
feel like that was a good precursor. That what they can find. There's people still walking around with fucking masks right now.
Oh, I see it all the time.
I can't believe it. People in their cars solo wearing masks. It's like, and it's not even cold outside. Like when it was cold outside, I would wear a mask because it's nice, keep
Yeah,
you warm
right.
and shit. But no,
It's their choice.
it's summer. You're wearing a fucking mask. Like if you're scared, go back inside.
Hey, if they want
You don't
that,
have to affect me.
If they want those tan lines, hey, let them, dude. I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, just don't make me fucking wear one. I don't really care. Like, yeah, I think it's fucking stupid. Like, if you are a healthy person or somewhat healthy with a good immune system, I think you're gonna survive it.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna fucking die.
Right.
Yeah, it's craziness. The world's really just the last few years. It's like, and we always talked about like what's next, right? And so to us, it's more so like, I feel like they're gonna try something with like the climate, climate change. Try to limit our water. Try to limit our
Yeah.
heat.
Yeah. That.
So something's
Yeah, like
Can't take a 5
California.
minute shower
Yeah.
anymore.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you see how California is, the power company over there was like, hey, so we only have enough power to either turn on your ACs for the summer. This is earlier this year.
Yeah.
Either turn on your ACs this summer, or we can charge your Teslas, but we can't do both.
But they want to ban all gas cars by 2035. Newsom.
all gas engines.
I think he's gonna run for the Democrats. I think so.
Newsom.
That's
Yeah.
like their only hope.
He's the only hope. He's the only
Yeah.
one who could possibly.
Yeah,
It can't be-
It ain't gonna be Lori Lightfoot.
No.
Fuck.
And it can't be Kamala. It can't
Fucking Beetlejuice over there.
be. Beetlejuice. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's some characters in the. It's like Game of Thrones for the politicians.
Oh yeah.
You think we're gonna go to war with China?
You're gonna laugh at this, but goddamn, dude, I fucking hope so,
Yeah, let's ride.
dude. Like, if it's with Russia, leave me out of it. I don't care. They're not the enemy.
Yeah.
China is numero fucking uno right now.
I heard that they got 4 of them for each one of us.
Something
We
like
got
that.
30 in the clip at least, right?
Yeah, right. Well, it's like, I don't know if anyone here remembers Modern Warfare 2, but there was a speech by, General Shepard. He's like, it depends on who's, who has the biggest stick, but it depends a hell of a lot more on who's wielding the stick.
Yeah.
Training, you can have all the numbers in the world you want.
Yeah.
Like when we went in Iraq in 91 initially for the first Gulf War.
Mopped them.
They had the 4th largest army in the world at that time, and we fucking wiped the floor with them.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally called it the highway of death. We would just fucking
Yeah,
strafe
I heard
run. Fucking A-10s went fucking Bert all over them.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we just fucking annihilated them. And they were like, dude, all right, we had enough, man. Like,
Yeah.
we're good.
You think we could mop China though?
I think so, but I think China doesn't want it either. They don't want the smoke
Yeah.
because here's the thing: even if China wins, they are beyond fucked. Their
Oh, yeah.
their military would be fucking decimated.
We're their biggest like customers too.
Right?
Yeah,
pretty
well,
much for everything.
that's another thing is
Yeah.
economics prevents us from going to war currently,
Right.
unless there's,
Do you
they.
think there would become a time where we just sever the ties and it's like we're just
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope we sever the ties with them. I hope we sever the ties with the Federal Reserve System.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go back to the gold standard, like, because right now the dollar ain't worth.
Let me ask you something about Ukraine from someone military perspective. So, do you think there's more going on there than meets the eye, like with the media and stuff? Are there Americans there?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
There's
There's
gotta
gotta
be.
be.
Oh yeah, well yeah. There is actually a kid here in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
He someone my cousin knew, and he was former, I think, Army's
Yeah.
SF. Like,
He's
I
a
think-
volunteer.
Yeah, he volunteered over there, and I think he was an idiot for that,
Mhm.
because he went to go fight on Ukraine's behalf, which I think it was a mistake, but he came back he's missing an arm, and
Wow.
his fucking left eye is gone. Fucked up.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
he's got nerve damage.
Jesus Christ.
I'm like, why, dude? I'm like, for what?
Yeah.
First of all, Russia doesn't want to fucking fight you or kill you. They just want to make sure that Ukraine isn't taken over by NATO,
Yeah.
so they don't have a NATO base in Ukraine right next to Russia.
Yeah.
They don't want that, And the reason why I say this is because, so there's been some stories coming out. They only recently. So they didn't. Russian military did not send actual uniformed military to Ukraine until this year.
Gotcha.
There was Russian-backed separatists. What that means is there's ethnic Russians over in the eastern part of the Donetsk, Donbass region of Ukraine, and there were a lot of farmers there. Ethnically.
They speak Russian.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
and that.
Ethnically,
Russian,
ethnically Russians over there, and what happened was that apparently the Ukrainians. I don't know where this divide came from, but the Ukrainians over there, including the government, just say Russians are dogs and they're pieces of shit, and I mean they were going around and burning these fucking farms down, the ethnically Russians, and I mean they were burning the villages down. They were fucking raping the fucking
Starving
women over there.
children.
Yeah, killing the children. I mean it was insane, and I started hearing about this. I'm like, what the fuck, and so what happened was Putin heard this and was like, we're not gonna fucking stand for this. That's fucking ridiculous. Yeah. So he sent, armed convoys and to Ukraine to arm the Russian-backed separatists, which means, we want to separate with Russia or side with them, and so that's where the Civil War happened, and the quote-unquote ceasefire happened for all those years, including when Trump was in. Crazy how that fucking worked, and then it only happened recently when Biden was in it. The fucking war happened, right?
Need the economy Raytheon.
I think he said he's like.
to go.
I think when in an interview, Trump said he's like, they would have never invaded if I was in there still.
I agree.
They never would have done it.
He never would have.
They wouldn't have.
And like I said before, Russia is definitely to a good degree, I would say, corrupt, just like any other nation.
Yeah.
Ukraine especially was really bad. But yeah, that's basically what happened. And then when Putin was like, all right, well, I've had enough of this. We're going to send in troops. And then send in his fucking guys. And, now, I don't know what to believe on who's winning the war. I haven't been paying attention to that. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. Once winter hits, it might be a different fucking story.
Yeah.
Because there's no more mud. Because I don't know if a lot of
Those
you know
Russian
this.
winners are gonna come.
Yeah, right. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but like when the Germans were coming, back during the war, there was before winter comes, there's a huge rainy season, and basically, I mean, it becomes like a swamp.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets really
The
fucking
mud
muddy.
and all that.
Yeah, everything gets really stuck, and supply chains slow down. But once that freezes over, I mean, you could drive over anything, tanks, everything.
Yeah.
So, I don't know who's gonna win. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about China, especially with their declaration earlier this year, their decree saying that they're going to invade Taiwan.
Yeah.
And,
As a
And
lot of
Biden
people
said
know.
that he was going to defend it or help or do whatever over there.
I
Pelosi was over there.
I hope
It's
so.
crazy how it all works out. Pelosi invites her son over there.
Yeah,
they have
right.
a nice little family vacation over there.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, something happens.
It's
You know-
freaky, man.
it's, I mean, I hope we do defend it because in the end, if China has control of Taiwan, because Taiwan has 4 of the world's largest semiconductor facilities for lithium ions and some other stuff that you need for batteries and computer chips and all that stuff, which a lot of it was came from there for when we use in our cars. And I don't know if you guys knew about that. Like Ford, when they were making their cars, they had lots of cars ready to go.
Yeah.
They couldn't drive because they didn't have the chips in them.
I've
Yep.
never seen that.
The chip shortage.
Holy shit.
And then we had the chip
it's
spill.
crazy.
And
It's a crazy thing.
so to like wrap it all up, for 2023, what do you think is going to be, like, what's your boldest prediction? What's going to happen, like, geopolitically? Like, Russia, Ukraine, does that get resolved? Like, upcoming election stuff, what do you think?
Midterms coming up.
For 2024,
Yeah.
I think it's definitely going to be a very closely inspected ballot this year, more than last time, obviously. But I I don't know. I maybe DeSantis will run. We don't know if he is or not still, but I hope he does. With Russia Ukraine, I think I don't know. I feel like Russia is going to win this. Because right now Putin cannot afford to lose Ukraine, especially with like I said, he wanted that border.
He'll do anything.
Yeah, and especially if NATO troops come into the borders of Russia, he's going to use tactical nukes.
You think it's inevitable?
If NATO troops are in Ukraine, which by the way, technically we are at war with Russia, because if you look at the laws of the Geneva Convention, or not Geneva Convention, of conventional warfare, especially on how Russia views it, we are aiding their enemy.
Yeah.
We are giving them weapons,
Right.
and for some reason, fucking $80 billion fucking dollars.
Every time I turn around, it's more money.
Exactly.
It's like, fuck.
More to them than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah, and then the supposed $1 trillion infrastructure bill. It's like, where the fuck did that go?
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that. In
Yeah.
months.
No one talks about that.
Yeah.
I'm
And
still
lot of
seeing
A lot of it went to COVID relief, when at the time COVID wasn't even really,
Right.
becoming a thing.
Right.
And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think COVID was really dying out, because I don't think anything is really going to happen with that anymore. And even COVID itself, I mean, it's because where it originally came from, was China.
Mhm.
And
You can't say that though. That's racist.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
The China virus?
Yeah. We can call everything else,
Oh yeah. And,
We
yeah.
can call MERS Middle Eastern respiratory.
Monkeypox is offensive
Yeah.
too.
Ebola from the Ebola
No,
River.
monkeypox went
Yeah.
away when we heard it's only
Zika
for
from
gay
the Zika
people, right?
forest, like,
When we heard that, it's like, okay, we'll just sweep it under the rug.
yeah, right.
Man.
But
I think that was definitely China's doing. But I think that what happened was, I think the left saw an opportunity to shut down Trump's reign,
Yeah.
because what happened was, I don't know if you guys remember the Hong Kong protests
Yeah.
back in
Of
2019.
course it was a-
So, Xi Jinping, the world tyrannical leader, he didn't want Hong Kong to have the one country, two party system, or two economic system, whatever it was, from the colonial times, where they could still engage in free market enterprise and have private ownership and yada yada yada.
Their freedom.
Yeah, right. Some kind of freedom, and he didn't want that. He shut that down, and there were a lot of protesters. There were a lot of fucking people that didn't like that, and a lot of young people, and a lot of people were arrested, probably still in jail, if not dead. And the ones that did survive are in hiding right now. And I think that they definitely released this virus on purpose to shut that shit down. And we knew that this COVID was going to come here eventually. I mean, it's only a matter of time. Once a virus breaks out, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
that's an interesting view on it. I like that. Never thought about that. Stamp out dissent that way. Lock everything down. It's like,
Right.
well, no one can be outside.
oh yeah.
And you know how they are. There's zero COVID.
Oh yeah.
They're barring people in their homes and.
Oh yeah, and COVID in the beginning, I will say, yeah, it was. I would say it was pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
But if you look at how bioweapons, like
Yeah.
weapons grade, engineered strains are made. So we had a class in this in the Marines called CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear. Biological weapons, the way they're made is you have to control it, right? Because if you have a really tough virus that just won't go away and it just kills everything that is in its path, it's going to be hard to control. So what they do is you have a weapons grade virus is you make it extremely lethal in the beginning. Lethality rate by 95%. It goes away the more it contacts more and more people, like a new generation or whatever.
Right.
The more people it affects, it actually gets less and less severe.
Like new strains. And
Yeah,
all that
exactly.
stuff, yeah.
It actually gets less and less severe.
Yeah.
And I think with the shit on the news that they're talking about with COVID is these people that are getting sick and dying from it, I really don't believe that it's strictly COVID.
Yeah.
Because I strictly believe, or I honestly believe that these people have some kind of, other medical ailment.
Oh,
genetic.
Yeah.
They
Genetically
have like 4
something's off.
comorbidities, like usually associated with
Yeah.
it. They were getting people paid to put it on their death certificates, like fill up as many beds as possible. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's just a scam. No,
Yeah.
it really is.
Well,
just
yeah.
a
Well,
scam.
hospitals do that actually regardless. The more
Yeah.
the more beds you fill, the more money
Well,
you
the
get.
more patients that a doctor sees, the more they get paid too.
Yeah. Right.
The whole thing's a fucking scam. And all of it is.
Yeah,
whole
especially
thing.
with like the stadiums that were in like California.
Yeah.
They had stadiums and they had like Red Cross boats ready to just take on people that were sick from the virus. Didn't use any of it.
Why would they though?
Yeah, right.
Why would they?
And yeah, it's. I honestly believe that it's. I don't believe it's a joke for some people, but I definitely believe that it has been blown way out of proportion
Yeah.
to what is actually happening.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stories of like, I'll give like an example. There's a guy in Michigan during COVID. He, because of the isolation, a lot of people were getting depressed and whatnot. Suicide rates spiked. He had contracted COVID, but unfortunately he let the bad voices talk to him and he fucking killed himself. They counted the death as fucking COVID.
Yeah.
The COVID made him pick up the shotgun
Yeah.
and point it at his fucking head. I'm like,
That's
Really?
how that shit was going, dude.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, I mean, I feel
It's
bad
sick.
for like the people that die. I genuinely do. Like, if you're older, I get it. Like, maybe, like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like a grandma, you're fucking 80, 90 years old, like,
Yeah.
hey, maybe you should get the vaccine out. I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with whoever wants
Yeah,
to get the
that's what I'm
vaccine.
saying. I
Don't
honestly-
force us, though.
Yeah,
Exactly.
100%. Don't force us. Don't tread on me. That's a perfect
You
outro for
choose.
us. Exactly. It was a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for coming
You
on.
gotta show us this shit once we get off. I
Yeah.
gotta see it. I gotta see it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So, everyone listening, make sure you check out the lab. We got a lot of good stuff going on this month. Giveaway,
Yeah. It's whatever Tokyo wants.
whatever he chooses.
He's the boss. He just tells me what to do.
Thanks for
Oh,
everyone
let's
listening.
all lift.
Yeah, Let's All Lift is
growing.
going.
Yep.
The pod got 25 new subscribers in the past 2 days.
Yeah, that's nice.
Shout out to everybody listening.
This might be one of our biggest ones.
Yeah, I'm hyped.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
I got more stories.
Shit, part two? We're on part two soon. We're going to have to.
Oh yeah.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Yeah, of course.